Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Nature's Wisdom Circle session. It's like a tongue twister, Nature's Wisdom Circle session. I am delighted to be here with you as always. It is truly a privilege. And today we're going to talk about an aspect of seasonal living through the lens of winter. And if you have been around me for even just a second, you know that rhythms, in particular daily and seasonal ones, are a huge part of the work that I teach and how I support people in healing and transforming. So we're going to explore specifically the spirit of winter and its invitation to slow down, to rest, and to turn inward, and what that means. There's really an opportunity here for us to connect deeply with ourselves, to conserve our energy, to replenish and to nourish our inner world and our outer world so that we're really ready for the seasons to come. So we're going to talk about this as a sacred time to pause and to rest. We will talk about why and how that is so necessary and overlooked in our modern world, and how for true healing and growth and resilience to take place, we need that crucial time of resting and stillness, and how that really fortifies our roots so that we can then really grow and expand like trees and flowers in the seasons to come. So that's where we're going to go today. I'm going to share some specifics and some practices and all the yummies. So that's where we're going. I am Devon, and I'm an integrative health expert, an Ayurvedic health advisor, and a holistic life coach. And my true passion and mission in life is to guide folks to relearn, or maybe learn for the first time, how to align with nature's wisdom and what that means, how that applies to our modern world, and how that is truly the most direct and joyous path to creating resilience and true health. And so that's what I do. And it is with that that we are going to segue into all the winterness. Winter is a season of stillness and simplicity. So stillness and simplicity, two things that our modern world really seems to kind of not want anything to do with. We can always look to nature to kind of guide us and inspire us as to what we could be doing in any given moment. So, for example, when the sun rises, get up. Already be up. Welcome and greeting the sun. When it's dark, rest, sleep. Right? So during this winter time, just as there's this quiet, the trees are bare, the animals are retreating, everything is in this kind of pause. Autumn is this more active deceleration. So we're actively shedding and purging and clearing and releasing. And then we get to winter and it's this kind of like, it's the end of the exhale, when we are completely empty before we take in that next breath. And on InnerSpark's Wheel of the Year, this time is referred to as the void. So my Wheel of the Year is organized with 8 archetypes. The void is the only one that's not necessarily like a thing, because it's nothing. It's the sacred space of no thing that is the source of all things. And so in this time, we're invited to be quiet and to turn inward and to honor the power of stillness as a foundation for growth and renewal and healing. And again, our modern world really resists that, and we're really good at resisting it. And we're getting better at resisting it. And notice that as we do, we're also getting sicker, more disconnected. Our culture is obsessed with constant growth and doing and expanding and being on. We're kind of taught to, well, not kind of, we are taught to fear the darkness and to shun rest and to numb ourselves with a steady, constant stream of sensory input, artificial lights, screens, noise, distractions. We are more and more increasingly taking this kind of shallow approach to life where there's not a lot of depth. We're like little hummingbirds, just kind of like, actually, that is an insult to hummingbirds because they are quite focused and know exactly what they're doing and what they need. Most of us do not and are just fluttering around. This constant state of activity and that narrative of like high vibes only, high vibes, light, bright, go, expand, grow, do, is unsustainable and totally unnatural. It zaps our resilience, it leads to burnout, and it disconnects us from the deep nourishment and wisdom that come from slowing down and being still. And so these seasons that we experience in nature are inside of us and available to us at any time, regardless of what the calendar says. The beauty of aligning with the literal seasons is that there's this, tangible, felt experience of these seasons as we cycle through them year after year after year. So every winter is going to bring us something new, a new layer to explore, a new piece of ourselves, a new piece of life and how we live it and experience it and view it. Another example is, the holiday season. Okay, so we're like in this transition time from this end of winter, or I'm sorry, end of autumn into this beginning of winter. The solstice is next week, the 21st or 22nd, depending on where you are in the world. And it's dark, it's quiet, it's still. And yet, again, because of that deep fear of being still, being in the nothingness, we have come to make this time be about all the overdoing, the overspending, overcommitting, overeating, artificial light, distractions, and avoiding the quiet. So we fill the longer nights and the reflection, introspection time with a lot of things that we don't actually need. So endless to-do lists, pressure on ourselves, constant sensory input. And it's interesting how I remember like as a little girl loving this time of year and loving those longer, cozy nights. And finding it so interesting that like we're all out gathering and doing all the things. And it's like, well, why aren't we doing that at other times? Maybe like during summer is a more appropriate time for that. And this is not to say, we talked about this last week or the week before. This is not to say that, oh, we can't do anything. Just don't see the family, don't celebrate any holidays or special times throughout this season that you may observe. It's about doing it with more intentionality and understanding the backdrop that these things are happening against, which is winter, which is this darkness, this stillness, this quiet, this time to really look for that light within ourselves, because the external light is really at its lowest. It's at its lowest that it's going to be until the solstice, when the tides start to turn and we start to increase it ever so slightly through the next solstice for the light half of the year. So when we bypass these opportunities that this time gives us, we're really doing ourselves a great disservice. We are missing out on this crucial piece of the journey to explore the darkness, to replenish and to recharge and to allow ourselves to simply be, to integrate and digest our experiences from, this year, our lives, This is the opportunity to heal, to maybe sleep a little bit more, to gain some clarity about where you're going next, so that there isn't that shallowness, but maybe there can be some more depth, some more fulfillment. It's a time to really go inside so that we're not seeking externally. And again, increasingly, we are getting so good at that as a culture, and it's sad. Seeking this external validation, these external definitions of self. And so these longer nights invite you inward to remember that light, that inner spark within yourself. Winter is this reminder to focus on what grounds us and to really tend to our roots. So the trees right now, there's not a lot happening, right? The branches are bare, they've lost their leaves. But what's happening under the surface that we're not seeing is amazing. Those roots are being so nourished. They're really conserving and replenishing and preparing for the seasons to come, when they're going to be full of all of their leaves and blossoms, and the flowers will be here again. They're not meant to sustain the leaves and the green, lush, on energy all the time, and neither are we. We're just not. So there's this preparation where there's renewal that happens. And so in Ayurveda, winter is associated with Kapha dosha, the earth and water elements that come together. So just briefly, if you're like, what is she talking about? In Ayurveda, there is this recognition that the whole world, and you and everything in the world, is composed of 5 elements of ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And there are 3 doshas. So these 5 elements come together in 3 little, how can we think of this? 3 little kind of characters. And so kapha is this earth and water that comes together. And so think of like earth and water. When they come together, it's mud, right? It's this very grounding, heavy, steady, nurturing energy, right? Mud is amazing. If you've never played with mud, please do it. If you haven't played with mud since you were a child, please go do it. When, if weather permitting, spring would be a wonderful time for that. That was something that I've done with clients and in different programs, seasonal things that I've done throughout the years. And springtime is really getting in touch with this real magical substrate that is the void here, right? It's this dark kind of the earth's womb where everything is possible, everything comes out of, and everything returns to. So playing in that mud, that earth and water that come together to make everything, all the plants, all the things that nourish and sustain us. So winter is associated with kapha dosha. So there's this accumulation of kapha that will start to take place, not so much in the early winter, and depending on where you live, obviously. But as we progress more into winter, and as winter turns into spring, because there's this accumulation of the heaviness. There tends to be more snow or precipitation wherever you are. There's this real that inward kind of down and in energy, and this slowing down, this conservation. Kapha wants to conserve, and it wants to be still. And there's this allowance for healing and integration to then build wonderful resilience and health and good stores for the coming season. When we align with winter, again, we are taking that invitation so that we can really fortify and prepare ourselves for the whole year to come, really for our whole lives. As we start to really sync with these rhythms, we can experience like a steady stream of good health, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically. Because we need all of the invitations and flavors of each season. We need those cycles and times when we are really emphasizing them. So again, throughout winter, the emphasis, the invitation right now is that reflection and just kind of being, like, how still and quiet and clear can you be? Not doing anything, not needing to know anything, not needing to figure anything out, but just kind of being. And I think a lot of us tend to confuse like a state of dormancy with stagnation. And there's a difference. So that kind of stagnation or avoidance, kind of heavy, lethargic, tamasic, if that word means anything to you, where there's just this kind of avoiding of life, that's not what we're talking about. That's not winter's invitation. And I think for a lot of us, there could be a fear of going there because it's like, I'm not going to come back. You will. Or maybe you really like it there and you don't want to come back, right? Depending on your kind of constitution and how you respond to different things in life. That's more stagnation. Dormancy is like, I'm intentionally here doing nothing. And realizing that in that doing nothing, my beingness is higher. So if we have like the ratio, right? So much of our time and energy in our modern world is spent like forcing the doing. There's like this giant ratio of doing to being is tiny. So this dormancy is like, I'm going to turn this down and turn this up and get as quiet and still and just nothingness as I can, with intentionality and with clarity. And we're not going to stay there either because we're not meant to, and we're going to want to come back out. So trusting those ebbs and flows and those cycles and those dips and allowing for them, and not trying to pathologize them like, oh, I am so low energy in the dead of winter. Well, good, you're a human. You know, there's nothing wrong with you. That's nothing to pathologize. It's something to embrace and to really tend to your needs so that you are taking care of yourself and allowing for those flows. In winter, let your food, and again, food, I mean literally like the food that we're putting in our mouth, and also all the things that we're feeding our senses. So, I talk about nutrition in a holistic way. It's not just the food we put in our mouth, it's everything that we are taking in. So let your food be grounding and nourishing, intentional, maybe a bit heartier, a bit deeper. So like less is more, and really like rich and delightful. Let your movement practices be a bit vigorous, but still well within your energy levels, and never a need ever to strain and push and kind of overpower the body. But definitely a time to kind of have those shorter, more vigorous practices. Work with warming breath practices. So things like good Ujjayi breathing, Kapalabhati or breath of fire, Vastrika, these good pranayama practices. And then if, again, those things don't mean anything to you, simply intentionally breathing every day and kind of focusing on that inner warmth, that inner light. Use this time to really lean into deep, good quality rest and sleep. So a beautiful time to kind of overhaul your sleep practices, your evening practices, and let yourself, maybe go to bed a little earlier, get a little more sleep. And of course, enjoy plenty of space for self-reflection as you envision what you'd like to grow in the seasons to come, without kind of chasing or forcing a vision to come. I know I've been good at that before, getting frustrated because I'm not, where's the vision? What am I doing? And getting out of the way. So not engaging in self-reflection right now for the sake of like, what is this going to look like and what am I doing? But kind of just holding space for that integration and digestion process to come, and really trusting your inner wisdom, your intuition, your beautiful unconscious mind that has the answers when we give it the space to be and to give us the visions of what we might be growing or want to grow in the seasons to come. So a great time for things like yoga nidra, those deep, meditative, quiet, still practices. Pay attention to your dreams, especially around the solstice. There's this really sacred time around there, and a lot of different traditions and things have been kind of mixed together, and bits have taken here from here and there of these 12 sacred nights, where each night we can ask our mind, our unconscious mind, to give us a dream of what we need to know about the 12 months ahead. So like that first night would be for January, then February, corresponding with the 12 months. Spend time outside, even if it's just a few minutes. And I know depending on where you live, that might sound awful because it might be freezing. But really get out in the elements. Observe nature, observe the quiet of winter, even amidst whatever chaos or loudness. If you live in the heart of a city, there's always this backdrop of beingness and of quiet. So looking at the bare trees, the soft light, the still air. I love the lighting at this time of year and this late afternoon, especially like right now. It's starting for where I am to get to that just wonderful kind of golden hour. I love it. And what else did I want to share with you? I love winter. I love all of the seasons. I love seasonal living. I have many resources that I've created and shared over the years that you can explore in my blog and podcast. So I could definitely talk about this forevermore. And I had notes today and I've gone off of them many times. So just kind of checking in with where we are. I would love to just remind you of the power of tending your inner roots and of quiet and rest and stillness and beingness, and how this is a crucial step to really bloom in the seasons ahead. Our summer vitality is built now in winter. It's all connected. So, there's already, I think I've seen people talk about that I'm not in that world of diet culture and all of that stuff, but I've had clients tell me they're already seeing things about, summer bodies and getting to the gym in January and nonsense like that. And yes, it's true. Summer bodies are built in winter, but not in that toxic way. I mean, in the way of how much resilience and adaptability and immunity do you have? How alive and energized are you going to be in July and June when the days are long and the nights are short and it's a little more time to do the traveling and the playing and all of that? All of that is dependent on what you do now. So how deeply you rest and digest and go inward and be and listen is going to be the extent to which you can do the things that you might like to do in the seasons to come, and have the energy and the resilience and the immunity and not be getting sick and all the things that bog us down in life. So really honoring winter's energy is creating space for resilience and peace and inner growth, and letting go of the noise and the busyness that pulls us away from our true essence, rooting yourself in simplicity and presence, and embracing what is being asked of you right now as a sacred act of self-care. Yeah. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's continue this conversation inside of the naturally resilient and thriving community. I'd love to hear how winter is serving you so far and what you're looking forward to, and maybe if there are things about winter that feel challenging and how you might be able to shift that perspective. And of course, if you're ready to go deeper, I invite you to explore the InnerSpark method everyday rhythms, where we integrate the wisdom of nature's cycles into daily practices for resilience, healing, balance, and joy. And you can learn more at innerspark.life. So let's embrace this winter season with intentionality, clarity, and lots of good, juicy rest. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for being here.